Yep. So I'll start talking switches. Number one, our baseline rule, again, is when I pass the ball, I cut to the same side corner. And we want that cut to be deep, as deep as possible, so that switches are hard. And so our terminology there, especially when we're playing teams that we know are going to switch, is get a piece of the paint on every cut. That way, if I'm throwing to you and you're in the corner, even if that means I have to like take a big old J shape to get out, that's fine. We want to bring that defender low. Now, that doesn't always happen. There's plenty of times where maybe a drive gets leveled out and I'm throwing the ball to you and you're 6 feet away from me. And like, of course, I'm not going to go hit the paint. Not a problem. So when switches happen, we don't want to stop the ball. Big believer that like it all comes out in the wash. And eventually what's going to happen is there's going to be a switch, where two people are on the ball momentarily. And a big rule for us, an automatic in our offense, is that if you have the ball and you see two defenders, you throw it behind you. And that's going to be the girl that just pitched it. So I pitched to you, coach, you're driving, you see two. I'm going to the corner, you throw it right back to me, and now I have an open three or a baseline drive. And we're able to kind of exploit some switches that way. So ball movement, getting a piece of the paint, throwing it backwards whenever you see two people are all things we emphasize versus switching. In regard to zone, this was new for us this year, but we wanted to play a similar style versus zone that we did man-to-man. The first couple of years we did dribble drive, people would get in the zone and we would turn into like high post and short corner Xing, ball over my head, like holding it for forever. And it's just an entirely different way to play. Our players go from attacking off the catch, looking to shoot, being aggressive, making people guard the drive. And when teams couldn't do that, they're like, okay, we'll just get in the zone because they're going to change their offense. And now the things that hurt us won't hurt us. So this past summer, with the break from COVID and everything, we decided we need to find a way that we can still play drive and kick versus the zone. And even if it means, it's different pass and cut rules, we want to play concepts that are similar. So talking 2-3 zone, then for us, what we're going to do is we're going to put 3 people on the perimeter, and they're going to try to locate themselves in the gaps between the defenders. So those top 2 defenders, that'll be our top girl, and she's going to stand in between both of them. Her goal is to always make a perfect triangle that she's the tip of. And her at the top of the key, her role is the only rule, you can't hold the ball. She can't catch it up there and be like looking around and trying to do something. She can shoot it, swing it, drive it, whatever you want to do. Our 5-man is going to be on the right block, and her job down there is just to wreak havoc on the zone rotating. Screen in, duck in, screen out, seal out, whatever you want to do, but you need to be hitting heads in there and making those bottom rotations be a little different. And then our 2 girls beside our top guard, they are going to be getting into their perfect triangle position in between the bottom side defender and then the top defender closest to them. And then lastly, in the right corner, we're going to have our best shooter, and she's going to be a baseline runner. And her main rule is I stay spaced in that corner until the ball finds me. If I can't shoot it and I move it, I then just take off and run the baseline. So if you can envision this with me, as all these girls are kind of positioning themselves in that perfect triangle spot, what happens is the ball starts moving as the zone starts matching up. And so if I'm at the top of the key and I throw it right, the top right defender is going to go take the ball. For me, I need to be in a perfect triangle there. So I'm actually going to move closer to the ball, which is counterintuitive. But what happens is that takes the left top defender and brings her closer to me. And so now when we throw the ball back, I'm at the top of the key. I have to be a mover, and I throw it left. Giant gap is now created for our opposite wing player to drive that ball. And you have the 5 opposite. You have your shooter in the corner. So if the middle girl takes me, I have one read to make. Do I hit the 5? Do I take the 3? And so we just teach that same basic concept against really any zone, whether we're, in that 3-out alignment I spoke of, or if we have 4 guards out and we don't have a runner, trying to find those gaps, getting multiple reversals, then puncturing the paint and making some sort of a decision once we get in there. And the benefit that had for our team is we went from being at like 0.97 points per possession versus man 2 years ago, and at like 0.75 points per possession versus zone, to this past year being at 0.99 points per possession versus man and at 1.15 versus zone. So we were really efficient on both ends. And, part of that is we made a lot more threes this year. And that's a really good way to have an efficient offense, is to make a lot of 3-point shots. But I think a lot of those opportunities were created because we're playing in a way that we're familiar with and that's similar. And we're not changing our style of play just based on the defense that the opponent runs.
Sure.